Fantasy football family, what's going on? It's your boy Eugene. Welcome to another episode of Off the Line Fantasy Football Podcast. I am one of the hosts of the show, and we appreciate you for tuning in with us for another week of fantasy football. You can find me on Twitter at Fantasy Genes, Genes. You can also find our official Twitter page or Twitter handle, Off the Line FF. On this pod, we talking all things fantasy, talking about certain players and the situations, giving a few laughs, jokes here and there, all in hopes of, talking this fun game of fantasy in a language that you understand and, prepare your fantasy squads for this playoff run that hopefully that y'all are in.
So,
The other host of the show, Ike, was popping, was good. How was your week 12? How was your Thanksgiving?
what's happening, people? I could be found on Twitter at just_Ico9. Yeah, my Thanksgiving was cool. Kicked it with the fam. But one thing we saw was a lot of bad football. Saw a lot of bad football this week.
Boy,
Thanksgiving.
Very,
Lions
very
Bears
much.
game was garbage. I don't even have what channel was it? It was on Fox. I think it was on
That was on
Fox.
CBS.
It was on CBS. You sure?
Was it on CBS? No, it was on Fox. You're right.
Whatever the case may be, I didn't watch much of it. I was at the gym and then I was driving to to my parents' house, and I was kind of watching like the score updates and things like that, and then I saw Deandre Swift got hurt, and that kind of sunk a couple of my fantasy teams that week. I was able to hold on in a couple, but all my other ones, they kind of suffered. And then the Cowboys Raiders, it was a shootout. Obviously we lost, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You had a lot of bogus calls in that game, and just kind of adds to the crappy officiating that we've seen all season long from these officials. It's just been bad. Four third downs, you call a pass interference on the same guy. When have you ever seen that happen? When have you ever seen that happen?
Boy, they were picking on your boy Anthony Brown, man. It was sad. It was sad to see.
Yeah, and then I think a couple of weeks ago he had a soundbite on the sideline saying, "Hey, I want to let y'all know I'm like that too." I was like, "Narrator, you are like that too, sir."
Oh man.
But from a fantasy perspective in that game, Derek Carr and Dak Prescott, they scored a lot of fantasy points, and Hunter Renfrow, Cedric Wilson, Michael Gallup, like all clips 100 yards. So it was a pretty fun fantasy day for the most part. Even Tony Pollard, he took a kick to the crib.
Yep.
And then obviously the Bills played the Saints later that night, and then Josh Allen, he was okay. Well, he was more than okay. He threw 4 touchdowns. So, but the offense, it kind of took a little while for them to get really going, right? It just so happened that they're playing against Trevor Siemian's hapless Saints offense. They were missing Kamara, they were missing Mark Ingram. They didn't have a deep threat to really speak of, so the Bills weren't really challenged in that game for the most part. And Stephon Diggs did work, and then Dawson Knox had a couple of touchdowns and only 3 catches. And he's a tight end. He's an overall tight end, I think 7 on the season. He has 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's
9
been
games.
Efficient this year.
He's been pretty efficient. So Thanksgiving games, that there was a lot to be desired outside of the Cowboys Raiders game, but we won't see these matchups going forward. So that's
yeah, thank God, man. It was bad.
Yeah.
Another thing that was bad that you did touch on was the overall theme of this week was your RBs getting hurt. We saw CMC. He went out before the first half was done with, and now he's out for the season with a high ankle injury. If you've been paying attention to him, been dealing with these injuries, you've seen that he has not played a full season since he signed that big old contract. And also, it is a damn shame. And then also with Rule, he's only played 6 games with Rule in 2 seasons. I don't know, man. It's sad.
I can't stay on the field. And to be fair though, like CMC, he did earn that contract, right? He balled his ass off. 2017, 2018, 2019, put up a lot of solid numbers. Broke fantasy football in 2019. And he earned that contract, right? So I mean, he had the production to boot. I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't deserving of the contract, but how the saying goes, don't pay running backs. But he earned his contract, and they paid him early. So it's just bad luck, bad injury luck for him.
Yeah, get your money. I know for sure next year he ain't gonna be number one. He definitely not gonna be your overall number one pick.
No, not at all.
He can't be.
I see him probably going, probably later in the first round. And look, I'll gladly buy the dip on that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, look, he was a previously high performing stock, and then he kind of dipped a little bit, and people are down on him. People are kind of bailing, but I'm going to buy the dip next year, wherever the chips fall. That's I'll gladly take McCaffrey at the end of round one.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you. Another running back that got hurt late in that 49ers game was Dalvin Cook. They're saying he's going to be out at least 2 games with a chest / torn labrum / other shoulder.
Injury. Dislocated shoulder. He dislocated his shoulder and tore his labrum at the same time, but he's only going to miss 2 games, which is kind of
it's weird because you got Zimmer. He said he's day to day. But you got your trusted NFL sources, Ian and Adam. They both said at least 2 weeks. And he's already has a bum shoulder on the other arm the other shoulder that didn't even get hurt on the play. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what the Vikings do. I'm sure if they start winning some of these games, trying to make the playoffs, I'm sure that they might give them a little more time to rest, but we'll see.
They'll have plenty of incentive to sit them. I think currently they are one of the wild card teams.
I think they have the last spot.
They might be the last wild card team, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh no, actually, I think they lost that spot because of that crappy Seattle Washington game. I think Washington actually popped over them. They have the same record, but I want to say that he hopped over them. But
they might have a better record over or something like that.
Maybe.
That's regardless, how records go.
Yeah, but regardless, Cook is out. Hopefully, you got the backup because he's going to be used the exact same way.
We'll touch on them a little bit later on.
Yep. Deandre Swift, we saw he got hurt early in that first half with a shoulder injury, saying that he might miss week 13. We'll see. But I mean, Jamal Williams in the backup role, he looked decent. I mean, but we'll see what happens with Swift going to week 13. And then also we saw Henderson. They're saying he had some kind of quad injury.
Yeah, strained quad.
And then also Zeke, he's been dealing with a knee injury since the beginning of October. So now they're talking about they might rest him. So I mean, these are all things that going into our playoff push, I mean, it's tough because, the pickings are slim. These are, for the most part, these are been big hitting running backs for, if not most of the year, then at least the last few weeks. So definitely got to be active with the roster gymnastics to try to replace this production.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more difficult when you don't have any fab left either, because I'm sure most of you have spent all your fab throughout the season on reliable players, but now this is just kind of one of those, anomaly weeks of just a lot of running back injuries that, you have to pay attention to.
Yep.
But, going from running back injuries, let's go to actual healthy running backs, and we can touch on a couple of running backs here. Joe Mixon he's just been on a tear lately. And, just this past Sunday, he just ripped through the Steelers for 28 carries, 165 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This is his 4th straight game of multiple touchdowns in a single game. Like he is just on an absolute tear right now, and this is actually his 5th straight game with at least 1 touchdown. He's just been pretty dominant, and over his last 6 finishes in PPR leagues are 4th, 24th, 2nd, 4th, and 2nd. So
crazy.
So since the week 10 bye, he's averaged 29 carries and 144 yards. So Zach Taylor and the Bengals brass, they are committed to handing him the ball and letting him run and just run.
Yeah, I see that. It's really surprising since their offensive line hasn't really been that good.
Well,
and then you see the weapons that they have. You would think is odd for me to see the Cincinnati Bengals committing to the run.
Yeah, they're just see what their strength is actually. I mean, they've been pretty good at run blocking, but their weakness is pass blocking. Because I remember a couple of weeks ago we touched on Joe Burrow getting hit in the when they played the Raiders.
Yeah,
he was getting battered, so that's why they decided just to let's just hand Joe Mixon the ball. He's our offensive centerpiece right now, and he's cooking with fish grease. So let's just continue to hand him the ball and feed him and continue to let it ride. And he has the Chargers coming up this week, and they're last, and they give up the most rushing yards per game. We'll touch on that matchup a little bit later on. And then another running back that's been pretty awesome is Elijah Mitchell of the 49ers. He is everyone's waiver wire MVP. Far and away. He just had a game where he just had 32 touches, 168 yards, and another touchdown. He has 693 yards rushing in only 8 games played. And he did he did that. He had that last performance with a broken finger, and so he's still not fully healed. It's not 100%. And that 693 yards is second amongst rookies. Second to only Najee Harris in Pittsburgh, and Najee Harris has played 3 more games than him. So just think about that. Like he's averaging 87 yards rushing per game, and he has 4 100-yard rushing games, and he only has 3, and only 3 other players have more. So Elijah Mitchell, he is Kyle Shanahan commits to a running back that this is what he's doing, and he is producing. He wasn't even the highest drafted running back on his own team. They helped scratch the guy that was drafted ahead of him. So this guy's explosive. He ran I think a 4.35 at his pro day. So he's pretty explosive. He's pretty fast, and he's definitely been balling over the last several weeks. And then another running back we could touch on is Cordell Patterson. He was less than 100% as well with his high ankle sprain that he had a couple weeks ago. He had 16 carries, 108 yards, and 2 touchdowns against the hapless Jaguars. One interesting thing about him is, he is the highest graded running back in the NFL per PFF, next to Jonathan Taylor at a 90.9 PFF.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. That is definitely crazy. And then in this past game, he had 19 of the 32 running back opportunities, so 16 carries and 3 targets. So he's taking control of that backfield. Mike Davis and Wayne Coleman are effectively afterthoughts. Cordell Patterson was a true game time call, and he decided to show up and start balling out. So this was these running backs have been producing a lot of fantasy points as of late.
Yeah, I think CPAT in one of my leagues, man, like he's been holding down, whether it be at my RB2 or any of my wide receiver positions on Sleeper. So
shout out to Sleeper. He still has dual eligibility.
He
still has dual eligibility. So
holla at me, Sleeper.
Yeah. Holla at us. We kind of need a little sponsor though, but yeah, ESPN still has him as a running back only. Boring, right? But so shout out to Sleeper on that.
Yeah. It hurts to talk about this game last night. Your boy Russ Wilson, he looks bad, man. He's not cooking. It's like as if Sierra just told him he's banned from the kitchen or something, man. Like,
it's I don't know.
It's bad.
He's missing a lot of passes high. Like I watched that entire game last night for fantasy reasons only. Fantasy reasons only.
It was tough to watch. I mean, it was his best game out of the 3 since the bye, but even still, he didn't look that good. He was, like you said before, the throws were really high, or we just dirting them. You see DK, he hasn't done anything since he's came back. Like he's just non-existent. I don't know what's going on. I think since he's came back, he's been QB 19, which is, I mean, 12-player league. You can't even play that if you're playing a single if you single quarterback league, so he's been hurting you because I'm sure you've been playing him, so he's been hurting you. I don't know. It's tough to see Seattle where they with 3-8 now. They're playoff, so they're pretty much done. I don't know if they're just gonna sit him because his finger is clearly not 100%, or you're just gonna keep riding with them. I don't know, but it's tough. It's tough to see this, or maybe this is just his way of saying "F you, Seattle" before he try to get his way up out of there.
Yeah, but before he goes to Denver and starts throwing passes to Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Tim Patrick and Noah Fant and those guys, because hopefully we don't get this version of Russ in Denver next year. I'm just speaking that
you already putting it in existence.
I'm putting it in the air because we need those receivers need to be saved. They just have not been producing. I think in that game, like this is kind of a small pivot, but in that Broncos Chargers game, like I don't think any Broncos receiver had over 30 yards receiving.
No, like, they didn't because they were running the ball so well. Or the Chargers, like I don't know, like it was just like bleeding the clock. Like I don't even know where the clock went. Because nobody was moving the ball. I think they had a pick six from Patrick Surtain, and I don't know. That game was weird and it was trash, but who knows?
But even then, like at least you should have at least like one receiver like cooking, right? I mean, it just seems that way every single week. Like there's always an issue with those receivers. But just kind of back to Seattle though, real quick. I saw a stat on Twitter where I think they're the only team in the NFL that's had 5 straight 3-and-outs. That shouldn't be happening with
going against Washington's
defense. And they've been getting smoked all season long. Now, granted, they've been playing a little bit better over the last couple of weeks, but they're still a pretty good matchup for most offenses. So it's kind of puzzling to me. But one thing we can pinpoint is the Seattle Seahawks are firmly team establish it. They love to establish the run, and they
no matter who's back there.
And they have shitty running backs to establish the run. For some reason they continue to commit to Alex Collins, and I have no idea why. He's shown over and over that he's not good. He can't break tackles. He's not explosive. They need to give DJ Dallas more run. I've been pretty vocal about this on Twitter. Like, why is Alex Collins must have something on the organization for him to continue to be the starting running back and continue to do nothing as the RB1. So it's just,
they keep resurrecting him. He wants to retire, and they keep bringing him back. So I don't know. He must have something.
Yeah, maybe it's that goofy river dance he does when he's in the end zone. Or whatever. That little.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, so because he hasn't scored. But yeah,
whatever the case may be, it's problematic.
Yeah. Another game. Well, this game was actually entertaining. The Packers and Rams game, even though the Rams kind of shitted the bed. Well, Stafford did, but this was an entertaining game. Aaron Rodgers didn't practice all week and looked sharp as ever. He had no problems with that defense for the most part. I guess COVID or wherever the toe COVID issue they had didn't look like anything. Devontae Adams did work as usual. They were real creative in getting him the ball, even when he was matched up against Ramsey. I heard something where he was Rodgers completed all 5 of his passes when Rodgers was shadowing him when he targeted him.
Yeah,
5 for 41 or something like that.
41.
Yeah. Which is it's not bad. Granted, because it's Devontae Adams, but for Ramsey, for his purposes, I'm sure he was pissed that he completed every single pass that he threw to him.
Yeah.
But the most important part was just Stafford again, third straight game with a pick 6. I know there's been a lot of reports about him, about his back issues starting to resurface, and then now also I've heard that his throwing arm has been bothering him for pretty much the whole season. So he did do a lot of damage towards the end of the game because they were trying to catch up, but again, this is Stafford with another bad showing. With 3 games in a row they lost, 3 games in a row they picked 6. We were told that he was supposed to unlock this offense, and doesn't right now it doesn't look unlocked. And again, this also goes back to the narrative of McVay, when we get closer to the playoffs later on in the season, people start figuring out his offense, and he doesn't have any counter to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. They need to figure this out quickly coming if they're trying to make a playoff push. But for fantasy purposes, it's not really. I mean, everybody in the offense is still pretty much eating outside of Higbee.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you continue to start your Rams. We saw Odell this week get more acclimated to the offense with his 25, almost 26% target share, 5 for 81 and a touchdown. That long touchdown that we saw in the second quarter, I believe.
No, it was the fourth quarter. Yeah, it was like when
fourth?
it was at the very beginning of the fourth quarter. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. But yeah, seeing him getting more comfortable with the offense, it was good to see. We saw Cooper Kupp. They didn't throw to him to pretty much the end of the first half, but I mean, you still saw him. He still ended up with 7 for 96. Yeah. So he did work.
They were garbage time gods.
I know. We did see Van Jefferson the long touchdown at the beginning of the game. So you see all three wide receivers are eating. So we can still be pretty confident in these wideouts. Stafford just needs to play better.
Yeah. Again, the third straight game, just kind of playing bad for Stafford, and throughout his career, I think he's fallen to 9 and I think 70 versus teams with a winning record.
What?
And then 9 and 70. At one point it was 9 and 54. Now it's 9 and 70.
Goodness.
And then another stat that I saw on Twitter was, or it might have been a graphic on the broadcast, but they said Matthew Stafford is 0-16 versus teams that are entering the day at 5 games over 500. So for some reason, when Matthew Stafford is playing like a really, really, really good team, it just doesn't
W's.
Work. Yeah, it does not produce W's. But again, for fantasy purposes, like Gene said, they put up a lot of numbers. All three receivers were pretty involved, and they should continue that trend this week against the Jaguars. Now, granted, they probably won't be trailing in this game. And they may be leaning on the running backs a little bit more, but who knows? We'll see. They did throw a lot against the Texans when they blew them out a couple of weeks ago, and against the Lions as well. So we'll see what happens there. But another game that a team got back on track was the Buccaneers against the Colts. That was quite an exciting game. It was quite an exciting game. A lot of points scored in that one. I think the Bucs won 34-31. Yeah, 34-31. And one guy that we won
38-31.
38-31. But one guy we want to highlight, and we haven't really talked about him much this year, but is Rob Gronkowski. He is returning back to form as a top 3 tight end in fantasy. He did play 80% of the snaps and had a 29% target share. He had 7 catches, 123 yards. So he's getting a lot. He's getting down the field like the old Gronk, like the Gronk that we've been seeing in the past. And last week he had a 17% target share and he had 6 for 71. I think he had like a 30 plus yard receptions in each of those games, each of the last 2 games. So we're starting to see his usage tick up, and Gronk it feels like he needed all the time that all the rest to heal those ribs and heal all those ailments that he had earlier this season, and he's got his legs under him, and now they're going to start utilizing him more in the stretch run, while Antonio Brown is still kind of working his way back from the ankle injury, and Chris Godwin is trying to get over his foot injury because he's still a little nagging foot injury, but for Godwin. Mm-hmm. So Brady will kind of utilize Gronk and then the running game while those guys get healthy. And speaking of the running game, that'll lead us into our fantasy MVP of the week, Mr. Lombardi Lenny, Leonard Fournette with 4 touchdowns this past Sunday. What a day for this guy. 17 carries, 100 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and then he had another one through the air. He had caught 7 passes, so 24 total touches for over 130 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's a pretty damn good day. And if you had him on your squad, you probably won your week. DFS, you probably won some money. But since the bye week, Leonard Fournette, he's averaging just shy of 8 targets per game from the running back position. He's the RB3 over the last 2 weeks. So he's been putting up some nice numbers. And he has a 23.5% target share and a 70% rush share. So Ronald Jones and Giovanni Bernard, they are effectively afterthoughts. Yeah, who? Yeah, so Leonard Fournette, I mean, he's going to continue to ride this momentum, this Lombardi Lenny momentum into this playoff run for your fantasy squads.
Yep. And then now to our fantasy losers or least valuable players of the week. We got 2 of them. They were both equally bad. The first one is Jalen Hurts. This dude couldn't throw the ball for nothing. Threw 3 picks. He did have a couple of bad drops by Jalen Reagor. One of them at the end of the game that could have helped him, could have potentially tied the game.
Justin Jefferson would have dropped that pass.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. had to get that one.
Man. The only thing that saved Jalen was his rushing. He rushed for 77 yards. 4 of those carries were over 10 yards. Yeah. There was points in the game, even reports after the game that you could see Devontae Smith very pissed, very cussing on the sideline because he just wasn't getting the ball. I don't know if that was just not in the game plan, or they just told Jalen, just throw bad, or I don't know what it was, but it was he just looked bad. He just didn't make any sense. And then the other player, which was also sad to see, was your boy Cam Newton. He went 5 for 20.
We know you hate Cam. We know you.
I don't hate him. It's just the overexcitement when he came back was a little is what has me tempered. But I mean, I love if we go in just to go on the tangent a little bit. I mean, Cam was one of our superheroes, if you want to say for athlete, because I was in college when he was in college, when he went to Auburn that one year and just he tore the place up, and then just seeing him go to the NFL and do what he did, he's just one of those iconic athletes, I think in our generation, honestly. Yeah. But absolutely. I mean, that's a different conversation for a different day. But he did go 5 for 20 for 92 yards, 2 interceptions.
Gross.
He was equally as bad. Everything was like a dirt ball or in the 5th row of the stands. He ended up getting benched for PJ Walker. It wasn't like he was any better. That game was out of reach early. Yeah.
The game didn't really start as bad as the stats indicated. I mean, he connected with DJ Moore for a 64-yard, reception. We were thinking, and then they ended up scoring a rushing touchdown later on.
Yep, by him. Yep.
So, and then we were just thinking, okay, well, maybe this is another game where the Panthers offense starts humming. Interception.
3 and out.
It was bad. It was bad for Cam. But Matt Rule did say that he is going to be the starter when they come out of the bye on week 14. Yep. So that's still good news. They have the Falcons coming out of the bye, so that's another get right spot for him. And you know how Cam likes to A-town stomp the Falcons when they play. So that'll be just a kind of a bounce back spot for that offense as a whole.
Yeah. All right, now to our favorite part of the show, cap or no cap. For the people that don't know what cap means, it's just another word for saying, "Oh, you lying." So if I said, "Oh, Cam Newton had a great game versus Miami," Ike would say,
"That's big cap." He had a terrible game. He had a terrible game.
All right, so hopefully that example was simple enough. Now to our first statement is our boy Big Bag Taysom Hill. Will he be quarterback 1 for the rest of the season now that he's going to be starting?
Big Bag Taysom Hill, who knows where the bodies are buried in New Orleans. Because I don't know why he keeps getting paid. That's another conversation. Sorry. Will he be a QB1 the rest of the season? I'm going to say cap for now. Even though last year in his 4 starts, he was a QB1 in points per game. He did average over 20 fantasy points per game in each of his 4 starts. But we don't know this version of Taysom Hill because he's coming off of an injury, and he's only been getting first team reps just this week. So we don't know how he's going to perform this week. Now we do know his biggest asset is his running ability, and that's the biggest reason why he was a QB1 in fantasy last year when he started. So we'll see. The jury, I think, is still out on that. I'm going to say it's cap for now, but this could definitely change next week if we ask the same question.
Yeah, I'm gonna say cap also because he sucks to me. I don't even understand how. I don't get it like at all. He just sucks. Like just keep him on punt coverage, man. I don't know. I don't get it. But anyways, our next one is I can trust DK Metcalf in the fantasy playoffs. Cap or no cap?
This is a very tough one. I'm gonna say it's cap. I don't think you can trust him. I don't think you can trust him. This version of Russell Wilson is very concerning for anybody who does own DK Metcalf. He has not been targeted that much lately. Over his last 3 games or 14 quarters worth of play, he only has 7 catches for 57 total yards and no touchdowns. And he has, and in the fantasy playoffs, he has the Rams, so he's probably going to get the Jalen Ramsey treatment. Mm-hmm. And Seattle's offense is not creative, so they're not going to move him around. So he's going to be locked in to Jalen Ramsey most of the game, which will free up a lot for Tyler Lockett. I'd probably trust Tyler Lockett more than I would trust DK Metcalf. And then he has the Bears. They're so defense against the pass, and he has the Lions. The Lions haven't been that terrible against the pass. I think they've been surrendering a lot more against the run. But in any event, man, I can't trust this version of this version of Russell Wilson to get the ball to DK Metcalf consistently. And so that is cap for me.
Oh, I want to say no cap.
Now there is a thing called regression, and things could definitely turn around for maybe a game or two. I'm just going off of what we're seeing, currently.
Yeah,
DK Metcalf tends to fall by the wayside late in seasons. I don't think he had a strong finish, last year or the year before. So we'll see.
Which is true.
I just think it's cap for now.
You are correct. I'm just looking now. Like it was basically like last night. Like towards the end of the season, wasn't much of anything. I know it goes against consensus when you say you need to start your studs, but I mean, this might be one of them cases where you might just have to swallow the bullet. Like you do want to start your studs when you get to the playoffs, but I mean, this is 3 weeks now of since Russell's been back, and he hasn't even scored over 7 points in PPR.
Yeah,
that's tough for somebody you drafted probably second or third round as your wide receiver one.
Return, I think.
Yeah, so it's definitely tough. I want to trust in Russ. I'm gonna say no cap, just because earlier in the season he did go for 5, almost 100 yards and 2 touchdowns versus the Rams. You can throw on the Bears. It's tough, and you can definitely throw on Detroit, but I want to say no cap on this one. I want to trust that Russ does something at the end of the year. But you do have a point about how DK's ended his first 2 years in the league has been pretty poor. Yeah. The last one I have is your boy DJ Moore. I can trust DJ Moore in the fantasy playoffs. Cap or no cap?
That is no cap. You can definitely trust DJ Moore because he is still one of 5 or 6 players that has an elite target share of over 30%. And if you're getting that kind of target share, that's at least 10 targets per game. I know he has Buffalo, Tampa Bay, and the Saints. Buffalo's probably going to be the toughest matchup, but Tampa Bay and New Orleans, they're both friendly matchups to wide receivers in fantasy. Tampa Bay is 7th most friendly, and New Orleans is 5th most friendly to wide receivers. So they both can, they both play a lot of man coverage, and DJ Moore is a good separator, and he can beat man coverage. So, they are expected to be trailing in all 3 of those games. Well, maybe not the Saints. It might be a kind of well, you never know, right?
With that one is
But at least for the Buffalo and Tampa Bay games, the target share is going to be there. So I always tend to lean towards guys that get targets and that are elite playmakers. So this is definitely no cap.
I'll say no cap, even though I don't believe in Cam Newton's arm anymore. The target share is the numbers are undeniable in terms of target share. So I'm gonna lean with no cap on this one too. All right, so waiver wire pickups this week is very tough, just because of the options that probably gonna be available this late, mixed with the bye week with important players. I think this is a very, very, very scant waiver wire, but there could be some people in the Rebels if you need somebody for this week or in going towards the end of the year for your playoff push. First off, we'll hit on some quarterbacks. First one, Taysom Hill. If you need somebody, I mean, he starts this week, like we said before. When he started last year, averaged over 20 points per game, mainly because he was doing a lot of running instead of throwing. Hopefully he gets Alvin Kamara and Ingram back, because that also will help him.
They were practicing this week, so I think they will be back for the Thursday game.
So if he starts, then it should definitely open up some holes for him, because just for the threat of them being back there also will help him. Second quarterback is Taylor Heineke, mainly because he plays the Raiders. They're hella friendly to offenses. If you need help, they'll help you. If they have the blueprint of how to defend your defense, they won't do it. So, start him if you need a quarterback. And my last one is Tua. Tua's been playing good. I don't get the hate with Tua. Tua's been sharp pretty much this whole year when he started, honestly. But he's coming off of back-to-back games of 80% completion rate, second in NFL in completion rate at 70.5. And then he has the Giants this week, and potentially the Giants with no Daniel Jones. So they could have the ball a lot more if something called Mike Glennon starts. So, start Tua.
And they're starting to get Jalen Waddle involved down the field. So Waddle just had a big game. So if they continue to get that connection going, we might see a lot more deep shots against that Giants secondary this Sunday. The next thing we have running backs, and as we touched on at the beginning of the show, we had a lot of running back injuries. But first we'll start in Carolina with Chuba Hubbard and Amir Abdullah. Obviously, CMC is done for the year. Chuba Hubbard, he's going to be getting the lion's share of the rushing, of the rushing attempts. But then we'll have Amir Abdullah in the passing game, and he recently outsnapped Chuba Hubbard. So he'll get a lot of work in the receiving game. So he's probably, if I were to kind of choose between these two in PPR leagues, I would lean Abdullah because of the upside in the passing game and the receiving game. Because they're going to be trailing in a lot of games, going forward. Maybe not this week, but the following couple of weeks with Buffalo and Tampa Bay, as we touched on their schedule. And Carolina's on a bye week, so you don't necessarily have to prioritize them too much. But if you want to get out ahead in front of your league mates, I would definitely put in kind of a small claim for either one of these guys. And then the next one, I mean, this one's probably the most obvious. If he's on your waiver wire for some strange reason, spend whatever else you have in your fab budget. But Alexander Mattison of the Vikings, obviously Dalvin Cook is down for 2 weeks. We did mention picking Mattison up last week just in case something happened to Dalvin Cook. And in Madison's 2 starts with Dalvin Cook down, he's had 26 carries and 25 carries. And he's had all 15 running back targets out of the backfield. So they use him exactly the same way as Dalvin Cook, and he's a locked-in RB1 anytime he plays with Cook out of the lineup. And then we have Sony Michel for the Rams. Again, we mentioned him last week as well, just in case something happened to Darrell Henderson. who now has a quad strain per Sean McVay a couple of days ago, mentioning that. And so this is another guy that can just slot in and continue on that role, because whenever a running back's in the game, they like to utilize him a lot. They don't like to split carries. They like to just kind of lean on one guy for the most part. And then next we have Jamal Williams out of Detroit. Deandre Swift got hurt fairly early in that Thanksgiving game. And after Deandre Swift went out, Jamal Williams handled 20 of the 21 running back touches after the injury for about 83 yards. I think he scored a touchdown. Did he score a touchdown? Either way it goes, he handled 20 touches after Deandre Swift went out. So what if Deandre Swift were to miss time, Jamal Williams would be a good RB2 to kind of slot into your lineups. And then the next one, the final running back that I have here is Boston Scott. Boston Scott has been pretty solid for the Eagles. Miles Sanders injured his ankle this past week. He did come back into the game, but he still was outtouched by Boston Scott, outrushed by Boston Scott 15-9. They both had 64 yards, but Boston Scott had a touchdown. And Boston Scott has the Jets this week, or the Eagles have the Jets this week, and they've given up a league high 20 rushing touchdowns. So if I know it's pretty bad. So Boston Scott is available on your waiver wire. Go ahead and pick him up. And so that's all I have for running backs.
Yeah, and then wide receiver and tight end is pretty scarce in my opinion. The first one is Kendrick Bourne. He's been killing it the last 3 weeks. 13 receptions for 201 yards and 3 touchdowns. Every time he scores a touchdown, it's almost like a missed tackle, and then he just burns everybody. Man, it's crazy how he's been scoring.
Yeah, he's a solid player.
Yeah, he's PPR. He's PPR wide receiver 12 in the last since week 3, which is pretty wild. Because he's just been sitting there and nobody's been really paying attention to him.
I think overall in the season he's the PPR wide receiver 24. So he's a wide receiver too, very quietly.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Also, another person you might, if you want to pay, might want to reach out and get is Josh Reynolds. Just because he's been the most targeted wide receiver since he's been on their active roster. For the Lions. If you need somebody, that could be possibly somebody also. For tight end, it's pretty scant at this point. The only person I can just notable would be Foster Moreau, because it looks like Darren Waller will be out this week. They're showing he's week to week with his IT band issue. If Waller is out, the other time that Waller was out, I believe it was week 6. Foster Moreau took care of all the snaps, 17% target share, 6 for 60 and a touchdown. He was wide receiver 4 that week. So pretty good production for a backup tight end.
Yeah.
All right, on to matchups to attack for this week 13, also known as barbecue chicken. If you don't know what barbecue chicken stands for, it's from Shaq on Inside the NBA on TNT before games start. He coined it when he sees matchups that you can just exploit. Just say barbecue chicken alert. You can go and eat anytime you want, all day buffet, man.
Yep, mama's cooking.
Yep. All right, so my first one is Elijah Mitchell, running back for the San Francisco 49ers versus Seattle. Seattle is the second friendliest team to the RB position. 49ers tend to run the ball almost at 49% of their snaps, which is second most in the league. Debo is going to be out at least this week and next week, so there's no Debo to steal those snaps. So there's more carries for Elijah Mitchell. So I think
you saw what Antonio Gibson just did to them last night. So
yep. My second one is Antonio Gibson versus the Las Vegas Raiders. My bad. It's the running back for the Washington football team. The Raiders are the third friendliest to the RB position. Antonio Gibson has 72 rushing attempts over the last 3 weeks. Washington has been committing to the run game and been committing to him. for better or for worse, which is good because I know fantasy owners have been waiting for this. They hope that you would see more passing game work. I mean, he did get some last night, but I mean on Monday night.
He got a lot of targets. He got over 7 targets last night.
Yeah,
so
he got Monday night he did get a lot of targets, but the good thing is he's getting these rushing attempts regardless. So it's good to see.
So the next one, next couple of matchups we have Tom Brady versus the Falcons. Atlanta's 29th in pass DVOA, and Tampa Bay is the number 1 offense in DVOA, and they might be getting Antonio Brown back. And as we mentioned before, Gronkowski, he's gotten his legs under him, so that could be another matchup to exploit. Atlanta hasn't been good at really stopping anybody, with the exception of Jacksonville last week, but who hasn't topped Jacksonville this week, right? Or this year? Another passing offense we can look to target is the Rams versus the Jags. The Rams, obviously, the last 3 weeks they have not looked the greatest. The Jags are 32nd in pass DVOA, and the Rams are 5th in passing yards, and they pass the ball on a whopping 62% of the time. So just imagine, Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, and Van Jefferson going up against that Jags secondary. Barbecue chicken alert.
Yep,
definitely barbecue chicken alert. And the final one we have, we touched on this guy earlier in the show, but Joe Mixon versus the Chargers. The Chargers do give up the most rush yards per game at 146 yards per game, and they are still last in rush DVOA. As we mentioned, Joe Mixon has been averaging 29 carries and 144 yards and 2 touchdowns since the Week 10 bye, and he's been the number 3 overall PPR running back, and he's been the number 2 overall PPR running back since Week 6. So Joe Mixon has been on a tear, and he's going to continue that this week against the Chargers.
That's crazy. It's crazy what Joe Mixon's been doing, man. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's just been quiet like until recent, because you just saw Jamar Chase going for like a 60-yard bomb for a touchdown, and now that's kind of slowed down. And now you're seeing the work that Mixon is doing.
Yeah, regression has hit Jamar Chase, definitely.
Yeah, and it hurting one of my teams, man. So
sure is.
All right. So our last segment of the show is we like to touch on player props a little bit. In the state of Texas, we don't have a sports book, so this is how we get our fix: is doing player props with Prize Picks. Player props do mix in with the game of fantasy. You can use these leverage these as a tool to get a gauge of how your player might or might not perform for the given week. So we like to give our takes on some of these, and hopefully you make some money out of it. I know last week we went 500. Our boy Dallas Goedert, he got
0 yards.
Yeah, he got Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And then David Montgomery didn't show up for the Lions game. I don't know what the offense was going. Yeah. But we did hit on Elijah Moore at the end of that game, luckily.
It was weird because it seemed like he was off to at one point he had 3 for 49, and I thought he'd keep rolling and rolling, but he only caught one more pass and he lost 3 yards. So I was like, wow, you're about to kill us.
And then the Josh Jacobs hit very easily. So
that was very easy. Yeah.
All right, so let's go over some of ours. So my first one is we're going back to the Jonathan Taylor over running back for the Indianapolis Colts, over 100.5 rush yards versus Houston. The Colts are favored by 9 in that game, so they think it's going to be not close. If it's not close, then it should be running the clock out, and it should be running with Jonathan Taylor. The first time they played him, he rushed 14 times for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think wasn't that a Thursday night game, I believe?
No. It was just a Sunday afternoon game.
Really? What? Okay. I'm gonna be getting confused when Houston played.
No, it was the Thursday night game was against the Jets.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then Jonathan Taylor's also rushed for at least 170 yards in the last 5 of 7 games. if they do put a touchdown prop on prize picks, half a touchdown, I'm definitely gonna hop on that because he scored a touchdown in now 9 straight games. So
yeah, and he'll
that's
make
my
it 10
first
this
one.
week.
Yeah, easily. And then my second one is Joe Mixon over 76.5 rush yards versus the Chargers. Like we said, the Chargers are giving the most rush yards per game at 146, last in rush DVOA. And Mixon, he's averaged 29 carries and 144 yards the last 2 weeks. So I think that should be easy for the cash.
Yep, a couple ones that I have, and they are actually players that are in the same game. The first one I'll start with is Lombardi Lenny, Leonard Fournette for the Buccaneers, over 55.5 rush yards versus the Falcons. Atlanta is 23rd in rush DVOA on the season, and they are ranked 23rd in yards per game given up. Leonard Fournette has hit this number or has gone over this number 5 times this season, so we do like him to continue his good play as of late. Against the Falcons defense that can be had. And then on the other side, Russell Gage of the Falcons, wide receiver for the Falcons, over 48.5 receiving yards versus the Bucs. He's hit the over in 4 out of the last 5 games. And with them expected to be trailing and chasing points all game, he should see a lot of targets in this one. I think around 15 to 20% target share. Especially when they're going to be paying a lot more attention to Kyle Pitts, singling him up, underneath in the slot, you name it. I think this guy he's done a pretty decent job of getting open and providing Matt Ryan a decent safety valve. So 48.5 receiving yards for Russell Gage against the Bucs.
Well, that's another end of our show. Hopefully, you can take some of the information and apply it to your squads this week. I know it's going to be tough on the waiver wire. You might have to you might have to pull a couple tricks to get your lineup, your rosters looking right for this week. Ike, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, I mean, if you have some tough decisions to make on your rosters, this is the week to make them because there's your margin for error is pretty slim. Now, normally on a if this was like if this was like last year or years past, this will be the final week of the regular season, but you do get that benefit of the 17th game. So there is another week in the fantasy regular season. So just keep that in mind. Week 14 is the final week of most of your regular seasons. Or if maybe some of you decided to keep this, as the same week, your final week is the same week, then go all in, do whatever you can to make the playoffs. But for most of you, you get one more opportunity to kind of right whatever wrong you wronged earlier in the season. So if you lost that game that you felt like you shouldn't have lost, you got a chance to make it up in week 14. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, just get some W's. Like Gene said, we hope that a lot of the information that we shared with you guys was pretty actionable, and you can apply it to your squads in a positive way, and so you can get some dubs.
Yeah.
And again, follow the page at Off the Line FF on Twitter. Follow me _IGO9, and follow Gene at Fantasy Genes.
Yeah. Just to piggyback, at this point, no need to hold 2 defenses. You don't need 2 quarterbacks unless they're about to be on bye. I mean, I don't know anybody notable at this point. Maybe Jalen Hurts next week.
And Tua, if you have Tua.
If you have Tua, if you're dependent on him. Outside of that, you don't need 2 tight ends. So skint, like you need your roster spots for running backs, for wide receivers. So, turn them over. Let's get to the playoffs. Like you said, if you like the content, please hit subscribe, hit thumbs up, share with your friends, support us, Off the Line FF on Twitter. You can find us on all streaming platforms like Apple, Google, Spotify. Just search under Destination Devy. Until next week, it's good to talk to y'all. Be safe, get some W's. Let's make the playoffs, man.
Peace out.